Welcome to Bourbon Barrel Mafia After Hours Podcast. I am your host, Jack, and if you followed along, you'll know that I do the Bourbon Barrel Mafia bourbon reviews. I do the Bourbon Barrel Mafia cigar sessions, as well as bourbon talk. Now, this podcast will be a weekly thing. When I do my reviews, if you follow along, you'll know I just tell you like it is. I have a deviated septum, so I can't smell or taste. But I can tell you if it tastes good, if it tastes bad, if it has a long finish, a medium finish, a short finish, if it's ethanol heavy, a lot of different things, which are the things that matter. Now, there are some great guys and gals out there doing reviews, and I watch a lot of them. So when they tell you about caramel and vanilla and leather and tobacco and sod and lemon or whatever they're talking about, you're not going to get that from me. And quite honestly, I think most of it's bullshit because I don't think anybody can taste that much of anything in there. The one that really gets me is when they talk about oak. Well, no shit, because every bourbon is aged in oak and it should taste like oak. I can tell that, and I don't even have to taste it. Anyway, I like to keep it real. I'm about the drinking guy and gal who like to buy bottles and drink it. You're not going to see a whole lot of allocated bottles from me every now and then, especially now that the prices come down. But I'm not going to shove it in your face that I've got this rare bottle and I'm going to tell you how delicious it is with vanilla and caramel and all of those things because you're never probably going to get it. If you can find it, you probably don't want to pay for it because if you're like me, when I'm buying a bottle, I'm drinking the bottle. And I'm even sharing it with friends. So I'm not going to be that guy. So if you're looking for that, I apologize. I just typically like to keep my bottles under $100, maybe a little over. And I do 3 new bottles every week, but that's not what the podcast is about. I always also do cigars. On Thursdays, I've started cigar sessions. I have a monthly Cigar of the Month club from Cigars International here in Tampa. I get 4 premium cigars every month. They send me 2 of each. And that timing works out perfectly because even though I drink and smoke on days that I'm not doing reviews, that 4 a month coincides with the weekly review. And I've had that for a couple years. I stopped, but I'm excited about that because I've been smoking cigars for almost 25 years, even though I've only been in the bourbon game for a few years. So I love to help people out. That's how this all started. When I got started in bourbon, I had no idea what to do with bourbon. Look, I was getting fat. It was during COVID. I was drinking 12, 18 beers a day because I used to travel for work. And when they said you can't travel, I just sat out by the pool on my laptop and I would start drinking beer. And the doctor was like, dude, I cannot help you. You've got to help yourself. So back then, it was all about low carbs, right? So I didn't know what to do for that. Quitting drinking was never an option. So at the time, the seltzer beers were just coming out or very popular at that point. And I used to see the commercials, and Corona seltzer had 0 carbs. I was like, shit, yes. I think they only had 3 flavors at the time, and I think 2 of them were gross, but I would go buy the 12-pack of Corona seltzers and sit there and drink those thinking I was getting healthier, but they sucked so bad, the flavor. So I couldn't do it. And, knowing that COVID would probably someday end if it didn't kill all of us, when I was working, traveling with customers, we would do some dinners, and they were usually really nice dinners at nice steakhouses and whatnot. And some of the guys would get a bourbon on the rocks or a old fashioned or something like that. And, here I am with just give me a long neck of Miller Lite. So I thought maybe I should try to fit in a little bit better. And so, not knowing anything about bourbon, I had to use the old Google box and find out what were the best bourbons for 2020. And that's exactly what I did. And it brought up a list of 25 or so, the best for everything. And I don't remember what a lot of them were now. I remember at the time, Maker's Mark was the best for an old fashioned. And full disclosure, I didn't know what the fucking old fashioned was back then. And so I go through the whole list, and it came to the best tasting bourbon. Now, my last round with bourbon prior to 2020 was in 1992 while I was stationed in Okinawa, Japan as a young, impressionable Marine. And shortly, it was just, I don't know, a couple weeks before I was to come back to the U.S., I go to the E-Club, and I had a shit ton of Jim Beam and Coke. That's what I grew up on. My dad's nickname was the Jim Beam Kid. So that's what I grew up on, and that's what I drank. And my buddies came back and woke me up later in the night, and I just hurled everywhere. And after that, I could not smell or stand the taste of bourbon. So this was an undertaking. That's why I was like, give me the best tasting bourbon out there, because it's probably tastes really good. So I go on the web and I find it. 1792 is the best tasting bourbon. Now, I didn't know that 1792 made more than one. So I just go to Specs in Texas at the time, and I buy a bottle of 1792. Happened to be a small batch. Still didn't know what the hell that meant either. Anyway, I'm thinking I've got the best tasting bourbon of 2020, and I'm about to cut my teeth on it. I am so inexperienced at bourbon at that time. I didn't even have a glass. So I threw some ice in a regular red Solo cup and poured me a couple ounces, not knowing how much to pour. And I proceeded to try it, and it sucked. It didn't make me sick, though, so I was impressed and pleased that, okay, I don't like the flavor of this or the taste, but it didn't make me want to throw up. But I didn't give up. I tried it a couple times, like, I just can't do it. So I dumped it out, and then I tried it without ice because I'd heard people order it neat before. So I tried that, and I was like, okay, this isn't so bad. So I liked it, sipped on it. Maybe at that time, it was probably 3 or 4 fingers because, one, I have a monster Solo cup here, and I didn't know how much to pour. But I got through that, and I was like, okay, I think I can do this. And once I figured out it was 1792, I started doing see what the contents were, right? And it said 0 carbs. Oh, shit, I hit the jackpot, right? So not only was I going to look more sophisticated when I went out to these fancy dinners, but now I'm doing 0 carbs. So I did have to learn how to drink it because, again, pouring 3 or 4 fingers at a time and you're a beer drinker, and I know a lot of people I've talked to and be like, yeah, you should switch to bourbon, for a multitude of reasons. And they're like, can't do it because I drink it like beer. I know exactly what they mean. So I had to learn how to drink it. Well, I had to go get some rocks glasses. Again, I didn't know what a Glencairn was back then. So I got some rocks glasses, and I thought, that's really cool. It comes with all these etchings on it. And I figured out not to do 3 or 4 fingers, but it took some weeks or months maybe, because I got really fucked up quite often, not knowing how to drink, how often, how much. But then through trial and error, I figured out with these etchings here, the second one is about 2 fingers for me. So I started pouring it to that second one every single time. And I still do today when I'm at home. Because when you travel, sometimes they don't have those etchings. It's just a clear glass. So what I learned through trial and error was if I poured it to that 2-finger level or that second etching, if I sipped on it, I eventually landed on taking a sip every 5 minutes, right? Now, a sip is just whatever. It's not a mouthful. just enough to wet your whistle, basically. And so I figured out when I did that every 5 minutes, it took exactly an hour to drink that pour. And I come to realize that after drinking 2 fingers, it's like, okay, feels pretty good. Not bad at all. So I continue to do that. And even to this day, I try to make sure it's 2 fingers to that line. And I watch the clock and try to keep it and maintain it at a sip every 5 minutes. Now, sometimes I deviate, not much, because it's a great plan. Now, most days I'll drink about 2 pours, some days 1. Every now and then I won't drink any. But then there are some days where I'm like, fuck this. And I may have 3 pours. I may even have 4 pours or more. But what I figured out is if I pace it like that, man, it does not hurt the next day. So that's not drinking advice to tell you to drink more, but I'm just telling you, if you pace it like that, it'll pay off more if you do happen to overconsume. So I say all of those things simply because nobody told me any of that stuff when I was getting started. So that's why I started the reviews. That's why I started the cigars. That's why I decided to do a podcast, because I keep everything under 3 minutes, because that's what a short is considered on YouTube. And most people don't pay attention to videos more than 30 seconds. But for anybody who is interested in any of the things that I talk about to learn a little bit more, I decided to do a podcast. So we will do the Bourbon Barrel Mafia After Hours podcast once a week. Every Sunday night after hours, you will hear whatever it is for that particular podcast. Now, it'll be a lot of talk about bourbon and a lot of talk about cigars, because outside of working, that's what I do. And that's the only reason I'm doing this, because I want to help other people who want to know about cigars or about bourbon. What it won't be is another bourbon review or a cigar review. I do those on separate days. This is just about talking education, history, knowledge, maybe even some bullshit. I may talk about other things. But the idea is, one, I want to have fun with it, but I want to help people. And hopefully it becomes very engaging. I may have some guests from time to time, and don't get too excited. I don't know any famous people. So the people that I'm going to have are maybe people new to bourbon, people that they've been doing it, just a different perspective. Who knows? You just never know. But I don't know anybody famous, so I doubt that I'll have anybody famous here. But if you make us famous and we get somebody famous, shit, yes. That's what I'm talking about. So that's what we'll be doing every week. And again, if we get some feedback, we can create a topic if somebody else wants to create a topic that we're going to delve into. Today, I actually have a topic. I'm not going to ramble that much every time. I'm just trying to set the stage for this. This is going to be unfiltered. I may use some bad words, and forgive me for that, but that's how it is. Now, not to piss anybody off, but what you may not know is you may be drinking bourbon wrong. You think you know, but you're doing it wrong. Now, that's not me telling you that, but according to the experts, most of us are drinking bourbon wrong, if there is really a wrong way. And I can promise you there isn't. But based on some of these things, I'm drinking bourbon wrong and have been for years. And I'm okay with that, because I drink it the way I like it, and that's how I encourage you to do it. So, some of the things that you might be doing wrong is you're gulping instead of sipping. Now, I don't know if anybody really does that. I've accidentally put more in than I was planning on it, and you get the little choking effect. So now, if you watched some movies, Blazing Saddles with Jim the drunk, I mean, that is how I don't know anybody that can drink bourbon like that, but I maintain that meme very closely because I think that's hilarious. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, go check it out. So, sip it, don't gulp it. You know, it's supposed to be about the experience. And that I do agree with. That's why I trained myself to sip it at that slow pace so that I could enjoy the experience. Now, even on the shittiest day I've ever had, I've never come home and just been like chug or pound. No, even on my worst day, when I come home, I still pour my 2 fingers and I still take a sip every 5 minutes because it is therapeutic for me. Now, the other thing you might be doing wrong. Let me get in the light here so I can see. Using the wrong glass. Yes. Oh my gosh. I am using the wrong glass, according to the experts. Now, I have used the Glencairn, okay? It does make a difference on the nose. It's mostly the nose. Some of it could be the flavor, but the research I've done suggests the flavor is more psychological, but the nose is scientific because of how the shapes hold it in and all that. So technically, if you're drinking out of a rocks glass like I do almost every time, it should have a rock in it or ice. But I don't really care. So that's why I will continue to use this. Now, I've tried to use a Glencairn. They're cool. I mean, my hands are fairly big. My nose is fairly big. I just feel awkward as fuck trying to drink out of a Glencairn glass. So anyway, you drink it the way you want. But speaking of ice, that's another problem. That's another thing you're doing wrong, according to the experts. 2 things with ice. 1, you're using shitty ice. You're not using good ice. What they mean by that is, you know, if you've got the ice maker thing in your fridge, like I do, they're talking about that. Maybe bagged ice, those sorts of things, and even talking about over chilling it for that matter. Now, I don't use ice on any of my stuff, like I told you, but my buddies do, and they come here and they drink it. So I have blocks, the little squares and the silicone thing. I don't give a shit that they drink it like that. I don't give a shit how you drink it. But you could be using the wrong ice, okay? And over chilling, you may be putting too much ice in it. And again, that just weakens the flavor. But if that's how you like it, fucking drink it that way, okay? These experts don't know. Another thing that I'm doing wrong that you're probably doing wrong too, right? You're not putting any water in it, especially the high proofs. So I know this to be a fact scientifically. If you put a little bit of water in bourbon, it actually does open it up a little bit and enhances the flavor. Do I do that? Yes, sometimes, rarely. But the reason I do it is because I have acid reflux. And some days, whew, the stuff is just really, really burning my chest. Now, I'm no quitter, so I don't not drink. I just add a couple drops of water, just a little, just to cut it. But experts suggest you should do it anyway. So that's another thing we're doing wrong. Not nosing it. Now, I do it. I don't know what you do, but when I pour for the first time a new bottle, I give it the nose test. Now, if I've had the bottle before, I'm not sniffing it again. I already fucking know what it smells like. But I'll give it the nose test, right? And I mean, scientifically, it kind of sets up your palate for the expectation. And I got a whole nother segment about that shit. I'll tell you about that later. And then, they're suggesting that you let it rest because of that awful, awful neck pour, right? Now, I like it hot. I like the high proof, so I don't give a shit. I'm not going to wait and let it rest. But if you do, that's okay. If you don't, like me, you're doing it wrong, apparently. I love the neck pour. Now, what I can tell you is once you take that neck pour, later on, it is going to taste different. And I'm okay with that. It's like having a different bottle. Who doesn't like that, right? 2 for 1. What else are we doing wrong here? Let's see here. Oh. Over pouring or letting it sit too long. Now, I've done one of those things before, as I talked about earlier. I have over poured before because I don't know what the fuck I was doing. One thing I have never done in my 6 years is let a bourbon sit too long. If anybody does that, you should have your bourbon card taken away from you. Now, they don't really say how long is too long. Like I said, I'll do my 2 fingers in an hour. And I'm pretty sure that's not too long because when I used to drink it faster than that, I would get really fucked up. So the other thing that I'm guilty of, and you probably are too, is drinking with a dirty palate. Oh, fuck this. Or at the wrong time. Is there really a wrong time to drink bourbon? I can't imagine what time that would be. Now, what I can tell you is I don't get up and drink bourbon in the morning. Could I? Yes. Would I enjoy it? Yes. Would I possibly get fired? Probably. And I'm okay. There's nothing I like better than waiting till the afternoon after work, or if I'm working from home, to do that 5 o'clock pour. That's just my thing. It's become a thing for me. Now, on the weekends, it doesn't matter. I'm going to drink it when I want to drink it. I actually have this fun thing during the week that my phone goes off at 5 o'clock. That was when we were on, when we fell back an hour because Punta Cana was actually an hour ahead of us. So I had an alarm at 5 o'clock Punta Cana time, and that's when I would do a pour. It was 4 o'clock Eastern time, but now I'm on the same time as Punta Cana. So if I'm home, I'll wait until 5 o'clock, but not on the weekend. No rules whatsoever. So those are just a few things that you're doing wrong if you're like me, according to the experts. Now, here's my philosophy on how to drink bourbon. Drink it the way you want it. Drink it with what you want in it. I know people that drink it with cola and soda and pop if you're in the north. What I can tell you is if you do drink it with that, yeah, I know it probably tastes better to you. But remember, all that shit's going to metabolize into sugar. And if you overconsume, you will feel like shit the next day. That's what's making you feel like shit. It's not as much the bourbon as it the shit you're putting in there. If you like it on ice, put ice in it. But I do recommend using a block. And if you can even get some purer ice, like filtered water or purified water, that's probably even better. Now, I've not tried all of that stuff because I don't use ice. I've heard that if you boil it and then you put it in a cube, it'll be nice and clear. I know they make these fancy refrigerators and these fancy ice makers that make all that nice ice. Use it if you want to. If you want to drink it in ginger ale, Cliff, put it in ginger ale. Even Elmer T. Lee himself. I happen to be drinking Elmer T. Lee tonight. He liked his bourbon with Sprite. Okay, he's one of the godfathers. So drink it the way you like it. Okay, if you want to drink it in a rocks glass without rocks, if you want to drink it in a Glencairn, if you want to put ice in your Glencairn, if you want to drink it out of a red Solo cup like I did, drink it the way you like it. If you drink it out of the bottle, please call someone because you probably need help, if we're being honest. That's all I got for this episode. I hope you join us next time. Pull up a chair, get yourself a nice pour, fire up a nice stick, and enjoy some conversation. Until then, drink it the way you like it, friends.